Man, I mean, like when I got into nootropics, my entire life changed. Like my productivity doubled. I was able to induce focus on cue, motivation on cue. I just felt amazing. Aniracetam, oxiracetam, 9-methyl-B-carboline. Like the choices are endless, and what you can do if you're stacking effectively, it's incredible. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Cortex Labs Nootropics Podcast, episode number 137, on a couple things about Pycnogenol. Not just nootropic benefits, but it's got sort of a wide array of things that it has the ability to do positively on human physiology, not the least of which is regulate endothelial function via nitric oxide adjustment and production. So we're going to talk about that and kind of its applications, doses, and all the rest of it. In the meantime, what supports this broadcast is a couple epic nootropic products. Number one, the Cortex Stack. Look, been around for 6.5 years, ships to 40 countries, used by entrepreneurs and serious business people all around the world. Need I say more? It is just strong for mental energy, motivation, verbal fluency. Killer stack in Cortex. Buy it singularly or do auto ship at livecortex.com. If you're new to nootropics, you have to check out Nootropics Ground Zero. It's like when I was new, I wish I had a course like this that like could save me 3 or 4 years in research and experimentation. That sort of gives you a framework for how to properly use nootropics, but most importantly, getting specific results that you intend to get from nootropics. Get Ground Zero, livecortex.com. Nootropics Masterclass. If you're a couple years in and you want to quickly ascend to the 6-year mark, watch the Nootropics Masterclass. You can find that at livecortex.com. VTP for guys trying to raise test. Can't stress it enough. Look, there are quantifiable ways to raise your free and total test. It took me a while to figure it out. Almost exclusively because I had low test. I mean, there were some other reasons I wanted to really dive into this when I was somewhere around 32, 33, but figured it out and put it in a protocol. VTP. Last thing, if you're a business person that wants to perform at elite levels, at extreme levels when it comes to output, cerebral output, brain performance output, work with me on either a 3.5-month or a 6-month basis. These one-on-one neuroengineering consults are that. You know, we get people that took pharmaceutical stimulants for forever and now they can't function correctly. We repair that, get them on nootropic regimens that suit them. And then otherwise, folks that just need performance enhancement, I mean, that is my specialty. We've got consults for it, either 3.5 months or 6 months. Do those at livecortex.com. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, everything at livecortex.com, with the exception of the consults, is 15% off right now. That's a pretty important thing to mention. 15% off all of those products I just mentioned. Use the coupon code 1515. It'll take 15% off of everything except for the major consults. Okay. So Pycnogenol. This first came on the scene for me from the guy from the company that created Nexus. It's another nootropic, and I think they had another product called Mitogen or something to this effect. It's a mitochondrial enhancing nootropic chemical or set of chemicals, and Pycnogenol, I believe, is in one of them. And the guy who runs it, I think his name is Jesse something, talked a lot about Pycnogenol back in the days. This is like 3 years ago or so. And that's kind of when I first came onto it, because it's not historically known as a nootropic, right? It isn't in the racetam class, obviously. It's not a choline source. It's not an energy-producing chemical like Alcar or teacrine. Yeah, it just doesn't get talked about. But, you know, that dude really kind of brought it on the scene to be a nootropic. And it turns out it actually does have nootropic benefits. And one can actually notice a difference in brain performance from taking it. It's subtle, but it's noticeable. You know, if you go and dig into some of the research papers on Pycnogenol, of which, by the way, there are many for all kinds of applications, we're going to get to that. The basic mechanism of action is regulating endothelial function via nitric oxide production. It's essentially enhancing and adjusting the production of nitric oxide. You know, and if anything that you take helps nitric oxide to function better, you're going to get better brain function from it as well, from the NO that is benefiting the brain. Otherwise, though, general heart and arterial health chemical, right? You know, via this nitric oxide production, and then really focusing on endothelial function. In fact, one of the things that there's actual research papers on this that it's been used for is post COVID-19 syndrome. there's a subset of people that get any one of the variants or the original alpha that end up in sort of a compromised place after the infection where they've got micro blood clots. And there's research suggesting that pycnogenol is useful for that, because one of the things that it does is it works to dissolve blood clots, which is pretty interesting for a chemical. Also, anything that is going to synthesize more nitric oxide is more likely going to influence the release of catecholamines, including dopamine, right? So you may get a mild dopamine boost just via taking pycnogenol. So let's talk about dosing. You can typically get, it's hard to come across powder unless you're really hunting for it. I don't believe that Nootropics Depot or any of the major other companies tend to have pycnogenol. You can find it on Amazon, so you find capsules. They either come in like 25, 50, or 100 milligram capsules. 25, 50, or 100 milligram capsules. And I've had the most success on a brain performance level with 100 milligram capsules of it. And what I usually do, so like this is how I use it, and this is how I think folks can use it. And then we'll talk about stacking. If you're going to take it singularly, best time to take it would be in the morning. Have a cup of coffee, get yourself kind of woken up and ready to sit down and do stuff. And whether or not, so like if you have morning brain fog or if you don't, it's still going to benefit you. But particularly if you do, like if you're having your coffee and you're not really, your brain isn't awake yet, and like the thought of getting into work is a little daunting, take pycnogenol. And I would suggest taking 200 to 300 milligrams of it. You kind of got to take a hefty dose in order to actually notice the brain benefits. And what typically happens for me when I do this just by itself, just like my morning supplement regimen, a little later have some coffee, and then throw down 300 milligrams pycnogenol, is like ALA, kind of like Alcar, and certainly like NAC. It just clears my brain out, right? It's like, okay, now firing neurons seems a little easier, right? If that's what's going on, that's sort of behind thinking. My ability to get to my to-do list, easier. My ability to start the first task, which sometimes can be a challenge if your brain's not functioning well, a lot easier. So that's the singular use case for it that I would suggest. 300 milligrams with some coffee in the morning, and then go to work and see how you feel. I do want to say to folks like that are expecting some sort of major noticeable nootropic benefit from it, like a stimulant benefit, you're not going to get that with pycnogenol. It's sort of like paracetam in that it's subtle. Like it just, you notice it when you're engaging in work and when you're looking at work to do and you're going, I can do this. Like, I'm ready to dive into this. That's kind of when you notice it. And then sort of deeper into getting into the work, when you start work, you just notice your brain is working a little faster than normal, but not in a stimulant way, which is really cool. It just feels kind of like you're yourself, your good optimized self. It's like, imagine what a really good baseline would feel like. That's kind of what pycnogenol feels like. Now, aside from the singular use case, you can stack it. And what's interesting about chemicals like this and like ALA, brain clearing chemicals, is that you can pretty much stack them with everything, right? And they sort of add their own synergistic benefit to every other stack you can think of. So far, I've taken it with the affinils, like the various analogs and the regular Moda itself. And it's hard to say if I actually notice it because modafinil, as an example, is just very potent on its own and puts you in a great place. But it does seem like my brain is a little lighter. And dare I say, like in that state, I can actually function better. Whereas with affinils alone, you're not really adding like memory and processing enhancements much. It's really just a dopamine stimulation and then a wakefulness stimulation via the orexin neuropeptide system optimization. So stacking it with the affinils actually kind of adds more of a central processing benefit to it. I've stacked it with racetams, right? I mean, anything that's going to be fostering acetylcholine usage and release, you'll benefit from having optimized brain blood flow and the nitric oxide synthesis from it. I've stacked it with Alcar. It's actually really cool with Alcar. A couple hundred milligrams. Mine is like 300 to 400 milligrams, my typical dose of Alcar. Maybe some coffee. Couple hundred milligrams pycnogenol. Like you notice the difference. It's more brain energy. It's more of an ability to sit down and focus on work. Your brain, it's like the best way that I can explain pycnogenol is your brain has an easier time navigating whatever it is you're doing, right? With less gunk and the sort of typical blockades that tend to happen when your brain isn't functioning really well. That's what's awesome about it. But also, I would say, in addition to that, I think being a vasodilator and a facilitator of blood flow, both to the brain and then sort of general endothelial heart and artery health, it's a good thing to take frequently. Like I've never run into a situation with Pycnogenol where I had to cycle it. Like it's just sort of like, I've been fussing with it a lot lately, and I'm probably going to bring it into the daily regimen because I think it's a good thing to be taking, look, 4 or 5 times a week, if not every day. I just don't see an issue with taking it consistently. You're only doing yourself good things and creating benefits via this sort of fostering of blood flow. And then endothelial function. That's become a hot topic, obviously, over the last year and a half with all these various vascular diseases that are out there. And yeah, Pycnogenol is not only being studied for that, but could be useful for folks. So again, I want to summarize. It's not going to be a particularly noticeable nootropic in that it gets you very stimulated, but this is like where you get into some of these nootropics that I really like the non-neurotransmitter direct action nootropics, like ALA and NAC is working on dopamine to an extent, but I guess ALA is really the best example there. Pycnogenol is another. Vinpocetine is another, right? Brain blood flow and oxygen. These chemicals have their use in a nootropic stack to optimize it and to optimize the end effect, and then also kind of as a daily maintenance thing for brain blood flow. Blood flow is a big part of like your effect from nootropics. It's a big part of brain performance, and there are many conditions, not the least of which is just having brain fog, and for whatever reason, like blood is just not flowing correctly. Blood flow in your brain is an incredible thing to have. It's a great feeling to experience, and you're experiencing it when you are experiencing it, as opposed to not. Again, subtle bump above baseline, nothing super noticeable, but absolutely great to have in the picture. And I've been taking a lot lately. I'm probably going to put it in my everyday morning regimen because I think it's just a rad chemical for that. So that's Pycnogenol. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being with me. Go check it out. Again, I don't think any of the major nootropics companies have it on their website because, again, it's never been categorized as a nootropic in the classical sense. It's just sort of another chemical that has nootropic-esque properties and benefits that is extremely useful, especially stacked with other compounds. You can find it on Amazon. And yeah, look, if you're going to get any of the doses that are available, get the 100 milligram dose. Start with 100 or 200, see how you feel, see if you notice it. You can go up to 400 of it and you're not going to have any sort of negative issues or weird side effects. But I guarantee you, if you give it a chance and you're paying attention to how free-flowingly, if that's a word, your brain can function, you'll notice the difference taking Pycnogenol. I honestly love the stuff at this point. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for being with me. Go to livecortex.com. Remember, 15% off everything except for the major consults. That means you can get Cortex 15% off. Coupon code is 15. You can get Nootropics Ground Zero 15% off. You can get Nootropics Masterclass 15% off. You can get all of our digital books, most of which are super cheap anyway, so you're paying next to nothing for them at this point using the coupon code 1515. You get them 15% off. And yeah, whatever other products we have at livecortex.com. Lots of digital books, lots of stack lists, and lots of courses. Last thing, there are some slots open for 3.5-month and 6-month intensive neuroengineering consults. We have a lot of fun on those, but most importantly, we get a lot done. Imagine taking yourself from where you are now, which may even be optimal, but then going echelons above that in terms of brain output. That's what it's really about. What can your brain do? That is my specialty. It is what I am good at. It's what I love. And in these consults, we work daily to establish an array of targeted nootropics stacked for what it is you have to do. And at the same time, fix problems that you have that are impeding your brain function, because most people have those. So that's kind of included in it. 3.5 months or 6 months, do those consults at livecortex.com. Get on board. Thank you so much for being with me. Remember, 15% off everything. Coupon code 15. We'll talk to you next time.